Hi, and welcome to Three Questions with. Got my buddy Paul Falewicz with us. Good morning, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin.
So, Paul, it's kind of funny that we're talking today because my wife just did our reconciliation for the month, had a record-breaking revenue month, Paul. Never made as much money as I did this month. Really cool, but I also have to watch expenses too, right? Sometimes we focus on revenue, but if we're spending more money, maybe it's not helping us, right?
Yeah, I mean it's great to bring in revenue. It's great to understand where your sources of revenue are coming from. But usually when that money comes in, the money goes out just as quick. So you're not paying attention to what's going out because usually when you have more money in your bank account, you have a tendency to spend more. So we want to make sure that we're looking at revenue and expenses and really focusing on that bottom line. That's really the key indicator for a lot of businesses. You could have $1 million in sales, but also $1 million in expenses. You're not making anything, but you have $100,000 in sales and only 90 in expenses. You're making 10 grand. That's better than making nothing. So the bottom line is kind of an important thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to, that net income line. And if you do pay attention to it, you'll be in great shape at the end of the day.
It's funny, Paul, because it's exactly what happened. Not the expense side, but we're looking at, the bank statement, and my wife's like, "Oh, you have a lot of money in your account, by my standards and stuff." And again, right away, it's like, well, we could increase your salary this month. So sometimes you got to look and say, okay, is this just a timing issue where, hey, maybe some revenue came in from, next month into this month. So before you start spending it, you got to look at what your anticipated expenses are, right?
Yeah, I mean, today you have a lot of money, but tomorrow there could be a lot of bills that have to be paid. So you need to be able to balance that with what's going on today and what's going to be going on in the next, say, 30 to 60 days. I mean, business is always moving. There's always a lot of different things going on. So you need to make sure that you're balancing that. You got, a lot of money in that bank account today, but it could be all gone tomorrow. So looking into that future, making sure that you're paying attention to what's upcoming as well as what's going on in the moment is obviously very important for a business owner. And it's just one of those things where everyone gets caught up in the moment. I get, as a business owner, get caught up in the moment too. You see good numbers and you're jumping for joy, but 30 days later, you might have some tears and some frustration and upset that the numbers aren't working the way they should. So it is more of a long-term type of relationship with your financials than it is that short term, because again, everything looks good today, but then you forget about tomorrow, and tomorrow is where that heartache is really going to come from.
It's really important to be checking your numbers on a regular basis too. I find a lot of people they don't like the accounting side of it, Paul. They want to just go out and do their business. But if you're not watching, especially in a rising, cost environment like we have, if you're a contractor or something like that, and you're not understanding even something as simple as gas prices, well, if I have to drive to that job now, if the cost of gas is twice what it was last time I did that, it's impacting profitability, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, we live in even before this pandemic we had a couple of years ago, we live in this ever-changing world where things go up. I mean, you need to be paying attention to that. And you need to be able to pass it along to your client. I mean, a lot of clients are not going to complain if your costs go up and then you have to kind of pass that along. I mean, you see that in gas, you see that in groceries, you see that in every single industry that you're paying on a personal side. It's the same thing in business. The grocery store, the gas station is doing the same exact thing. If the cost of gas goes up $1 from they purchase it from their supplier, they usually pass it along to their client. They're going to mark it up a little bit more because their costs are going up. So there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all kind of understand that. We all, live in this world. We all understand that people need to make money. That's how, you get paid. If your employer can't raise prices and loses money, then they're not going to be able to pay you. And as a business owner, you're not going to be able to attract good employees. If your costs are consistently going up and you're not paying attention to that, you start losing money. So it's important to pay attention to that. It's important to look at that on a very frequent basis. I tell people look at their statements on a monthly basis, at worst a quarterly, but if you're looking at it more frequently, you can react to what's going on, and you're not sort of being, you're behind the eight ball when it comes to figuring out what's going on, and then wonder why your business is struggling at that point.
So, Paul, that kind of brings us to the next question, is talking about the value you provide to your clients. But it seems like everything we spoke about today is the value. We're sitting down with your clients saying, hey, Kev, you have to be looking ahead. We have some big expenses coming up. Hey, Kev, prices have increased. We got to make some adjustments. So it's that value added. It's not just you looking, saying, here's your numbers, congratulations, or sorry, but helping people plan for the future and to grow their business, right?
Yeah, I mean, for the value that I'm bringing in is that strategy and basically a conversation that you have with everybody at that point. So, you sit down once a month, once a quarter, we have a conversation with all of our clients to figure out, where they've been and where they want to go and what is, preventing them from getting where they want to get to at this point. So a lot of that value is kind of that conversation and, picking up a phone call when they call this afternoon and say, hey, I got this great opportunity. Does it make sense? To have that conversation in the moment to make sure that they understand what that value is going to bring to them as well. So, availability, conversations, I talk about it all the time. There's a lot of other accountants that, we're all good at number crunching. We can all do the analytical side, but can we have that conversation with the client to make sure that they're moving in the right direction and that they have a resource of someone to talk to when bad things happen or when good things happen or when there's an opportunity they need to take advantage of. You're able to provide that. And unfortunately, it's all good about good customer service that goes across any industry, not just the accounting or my industry at that point, but being accessible to your client, I think, is the biggest thing. And a lot of people, if you leave a voicemail today and they don't get back to you until next week, the opportunity might be lost at that point. So it's good to be able to be accessible and be able to listen to what they're saying and then be able to respond to that so that they're in a good position as well.
I like that a lot, Paul, because I am that person. I always have another idea, Paul. And I like that about myself. But I've had to learn opportunity costs. Yeah, you can go do all these other things, but you may be making less money by doing that. What is your number one primary source of revenue and how can you grow that versus getting so spread out over, well, Paul, if I offer these 9 services, right, then I'm bound to make money because I got 9 different revenue sources. But some of them I may be barely making money off of. So that's an important conversation to have, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, as you mentioned, 9 different revenue sources. It's great to have, diversity. You're able to provide a lot of things to your clients. However, 8 of them could be losing you money in eating up all of your time, where you focus on the one that you're really making good money on and you're really, really good at. That's where you'll really stand out to, potential future clients at that point. And that's what you really do good. So we all want to be everything to everyone, but unfortunately, we all have a certain, knowledge as much as we can figure out at that point to be able to pass along. So if you're good at one thing, that's great. You can't really be good at 9 or 10 things. There's really not many people that are able to bring all of that to the table. So if you can focus on the 1 or 2 things that you're great at, make the money. We all talk about money and profit. That's kind of what sustains a business. That's what we really want to focus on. So it's being good at one thing is great. Being good at 9 things is probably not really, going to get you anywhere in the long run.
So, Paul, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? How can they learn more?
Easiest way to do is go to my website, Succentrix.com/Paul Falewicz, or reach out to me via email, paul.falewicz@Succentrix.com.
Paul, I appreciate you taking a couple minutes to call into the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Always great to talk to you, Kevin.